So, all right, good morning, afternoon, whatever it is, students. As you know, this is your professor, and we're just here with Josh Remington. When we reached out to him about doing this, he was at Illinois State, and I'll let him go over where his new step is headed. Should be great. Josh, we've known each other for a couple years, but just wanted to, just to kind of start the conversation, tell everyone about your background. How'd you get your start in sports business, and what led you to your new opportunity? So,
yeah. First of all, thanks again for the opportunity. I enjoy this kind of thing a lot. So I've been in the sports industry here for about 5 years. I went to Grace College in Northern Indiana, which is not a big school, about 1,200 students, but had a sport management degree option for undergrad. So that was for me where I kind of got my first taste of kind of the education side of it, and then slowly over time had a chance to volunteer at some sporting events, anything from golf tournaments to conference basketball or football championships, things like that, to even while I was an undergrad, get a lot of experience. And so that led to my first internship in athletics, which was with the Indiana Sports Corporation. That was dealing with marketing and promotions there. I was there for a chunk of a semester, and then spent a summer actually as a game day employee for the Indianapolis Indians AAA team. So through that opportunity, kind of diversified my experience even by that point. And from a marketing standpoint, as you can imagine, minor league baseball is a tremendous opportunity just to get a glimpse into that world. It's really different. From that opportunity, it led me to the University of Evansville down in Southern Indiana. I was there for 10 months as an external affairs intern, and that was really where I locked in on sports marketing. I knew up to that point that, to your original point, I knew up to that point that athletics was something I enjoyed. I was an active person growing up. I played sports. I was a sports fan. I grew up an Ohio State fan. And so I'd been around larger sporting events and knew that was something, if possible, that I'd like to find a career in. And so from then, the University of Evansville was a tremendous opportunity because it was a very small athletic department, very close-knit group, that as an intern, I had an opportunity to learn ticket software from an operations and a sales standpoint, event management, doing everything from setting up a game to being a ball boy to paying officials to escorting the visiting team to a locker room to assigning a locker room, and to all of a sudden, on the next day being the one writing social media copy for Facebook posts and writing a game script for a soccer match, like everything under the sun. And that was really a tremendous opportunity as someone that had only been out of school for less than a year and wasn't really sure what exact area I wanted to focus in. That was where marketing kind of rose to the top. I found that, okay, I really enjoy the live game atmosphere. I enjoy scripting the games and the expectations and things that come with that. And so that's where I looked at marketing as kind of that next step. I, to that point, had not really been interested in grad school. I hadn't really looked into it until I started looking at jobs, realizing that, okay, even for assistant directors, some of them do prefer a master's. And so I said, okay, that may be something I have to consider. And I had heard of a graduate assistant really from the context of coaching, of having video coordinators, things like that, but didn't realize you could do that for an external department like marketing or communications. So that was where Illinois State, the opportunity there came along as a marketing graduate assistant. I was fortunate to have filled that role. I do think that my year out of school, I think that year out of school within the Missouri Valley Conference, working for a fellow conference member, really helped a lot to round out my experience and grow me into that position. So that got me to ISU. And then 6 months into that, we had some moving and shaking, as often happens at that level. And our director moved up, our assistant director moved up, and then as a result, I was able to fill the assistant director role and have that first full-time role. So that I was fortunate, again, right place, right time, but I felt like by that point I had a good amount of experience that I could rely on. And then here I've been, I'm just wrapping up what's been 4 years. What I thought was going to be 2 years as a grad assistant, this has been 4 years as a grad assistant director of marketing, and most recently the last year as director of marketing. So I've overseen this past year the football marketing, including the game day experience, scripting and all that, email marketing, and then student marketing as well on campus with our student section. This next opportunity then, I here at the end of the week will be taking on the new role as Director of Marketing at SMU, Southern Methodist University in Dallas. So I will oversee football marketing, men's basketball, advertising, social media, and a little bit of volleyball, kind of the oversight of their grad assistant in volleyball. So good breadth of experience. It's a nice step up and closer to those closest to me. So I'm very excited for the opportunity.
Sure, and that's I love the story because even though I'm gonna break what I said before we came on here, the schools that I'm teaching at both are small. One's a public, one's a private school, and you just laid out the pathway for someone who starts off at a small school, because everyone thinks, if I didn't go to a top school in Ohio State, a South Carolina, then I can't have that path forward. And you've demonstrated that. You worked your way up. You had to work a lot of long hours. You obviously had to do a lot of good stuff. And now you're going to be at an FBS school. Not that there's any knock on smaller schools, but a lot of people want to be at those FBS schools, and those are very competitive jobs. So it shows that the smaller school people can really compete at that top level. So kudos to you for doing that. You kind of already touched on it, but what about it? What about the live experience drew you to, hey, I really want to be a part of sport marketing?
Yeah, so for me, it was really coming from my upbringing and my memories that I have of sporting events that I attended as a young kid. I mean, my dad's an Ohio State alum, so I grew up going to games and experiencing that. And then again, over the course of time with my own experience as a college student and things, being able to travel and go to bigger games, that was really something I've really come to enjoy, is that live game experience. And so my personal calling card is providing lasting memories for fans of all ages. And that's really what I feel like we're doing in sports marketing. You know, especially in today's day and age of the conversation of following attendance numbers at live sporting events, our job is to create something that is memorable for fans beyond the live action game that's happening on the field. It's, the things happening between in timeouts, or even just a general theme of the game, if it's a whiteout or something. Providing something apart from the game itself that fans will leave feeling like they really enjoyed and they want to come back to experience again. I remember having those feelings as a young kid and as a sports fan growing up. And so now to be in a place, I really consider it quite a privilege to be in a position where I can then be a part of those decisions that lead to memories for other fans. So that's specifically what led me to that. I mean, apart from that, I mean, marketing is kind of the fun group. I mean, we get to do things like, it's a lot of work, and even like right now, our promo closet downstairs is full of pom-poms and mini balls and t-shirts and everything, giveaways and all this. So it is kind of the fun group, but it's a dynamic environment. It's, every day is different, and it's really come to be the wedge of the industry, if you will, that I really enjoy.
Sure. And so let's dive into the topic, because you've talked a lot about it. Obviously when people hear the word promotions, sorry about that. Whenever you hear the word promotions, a lot of people go towards the idea of, okay, well, that's the pom-poms and all that stuff. But promotions is really that bigger group or bigger stuff, because it's so many different facets of it. It's not just the in-game promotions. It's the promotions of the event itself. So talk about what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. For director of marketing promotions, what does that look like specifically for promotions-wise? What does that look like? Is that is most of your focus on in-game? Is it promoting certain events? What does that look like?
Sure. Yeah, good question. So from my standpoint, the promotions of an event, we put together a promotional schedule. So if I'm looking at, say for ISU football right now at Illinois State, again, I'm leaving right before the season starts, but what I've developed as the promotional schedule is 6 home games. And so we develop, we want to have an agriculture night on the home opener. We're going to have a live band. There's going to be a country theme, kind of agriculture, education-based theme with, some ticket specials for certain agriculture groups, and having, the Department of Agriculture out, and have a, Discovery Museum for kids. So there's one side of promotions that is bringing people to games. It's ticket specials, it's group sales, it's a giveaway at the game. Something that gets them in the seats. And then there's the kind of the other half of promotions, which is the in-game side of it, that is something that, again, provides that lasting memory, whether it's something humorous or it's a video on the screen, something that they're engaging with at the game. But overall, I mean, whether it's in-game or promotional schedule based, everything involves just a lot of group collaboration. So when I put together a promotional schedule, I'm working with our communication staff, our development team, our sales team. We are fortunate as an FCS school to have a full a full outside sales team,
Yeah,
making calls. They have GAs and interns that are basically constantly making phone calls. And we're very fortunate to have that because we can identify, okay, we sent an email last week about Cheer Clinic coming up, and now we have this list of people that clicked on the Cheer Clinic banner, and we can call them. So we do have an opportunity to engage that way with some strategy mixed in, but it does take a lot of group collaboration.
Sure, and that's very big, especially at smaller schools. You see that, but also even at the bigger schools. Like, so when I worked in South Carolina, ticket office and marketing people work very close. We also work very close with the Gamecock Club, and that's really what I think is really unique about athletics. Is you go into other industries and certain departments, they're stabilized. They don't want you to cross over. Athletics is you have to depend on everyone else. And I think that's a very big point that you talked about. And we've already talked about this a little bit, but go a little bit deeper into the difference between the in-game promotion versus the promotion of a specific game. So what's the difference between doing a half-court contest versus promoting a game, the Agriculture Day?
Yeah, sure. So overall, from like a game day promotion of an event, that's what's going to take the far majority of your planning and execution ahead of time. So that is where that group collaboration really comes in. It's developing, the planning, everything. I do use that Promotions 360 document quite a bit, I will say, that's passed around our industry quite a bit, because it does help you round out an event. It makes sure that, okay, on social media, from a student side of things, we're promoting this ahead of time. From an email standpoint, we've got X, Y, and Z going. From a mascot branding standpoint, if you have a good mascot brand, what are they doing in the community or on campus or on social media to engage with this event? And we're again fortunate at IOSU to have an in-house video team that went out with 5 or 6 of our more well-known football players to our university farm and just filmed them dinking around with farm equipment and going to pet some animals and run through the cornfields, like just to be goofy. But it sets that tone for Agriculture Night of like, hey, this is something our team understands. This is something that our local community can get behind. And here's what campus is doing as well with the education. So it's finding those ways to round out the theme and reach any number of demographics and segments that you want to reach to bring out there. Kids clubs, alumni, donors, everything like that. And then again, the in-game thing, you can plan that ahead of time. We've done a student skill drill on the field kind of thing during a game where they had to run through the ladder thing and then push the tackle dummy and all that and get a prize for whoever the first person was to finish. That kind of thing is, you can plan and practice those promotions, as we would call it, the in-game elements ahead of time, but that's going to be more of your dynamic environment in a game. So you come into that game usually not having the contestants picked out yet. So we have interns that go into the students section to find students to do things. Usually, thankfully, it's not that hard. Usually they know if there's something free involved, they're going to do it, but especially food. But so that's really, again, more the dynamic side of it. Anything from a fan cam, guitar cam, anything like that, where our video team is working behind the scenes to, pre-select who they're going to show on the screen. It's a lot more of that dynamic environment. Sure. And that's where, as someone who really enjoys calling those live games, because there is some pressure to it, it's a live atmosphere, there's people watching what you're doing. It's really a dynamic field, and that's where I'm on the headset, 2 timeouts ahead of time saying, hey, remember, this timeout we have this. How are we doing on finding contestants for X, Y, and Z? Okay, do we have the supplies for this? Are the t-shirts in the right place for the t-shirt toss? And it's a small thing, but I can't tell you the number of times where we announced the t-shirt toss and the cheer team doesn't have the shirts. So it's one of those things that you just have to stay on the ball and communicate, and set a plan ahead of time. I mean, I'm big on developing a staffing schedule that, we sit down before we all start getting things together for the game, and we go through it timeout by timeout. Pre-game, 2 hours out, here's what we're doing. 1 hour out, everyone needs to be on headset. 30 minutes, this person's here, this person's there. So that when we're in those moments, there are fewer surprises. Nothing's ever perfect, but there are fewer surprises when people have a plan and they can execute it.
Sure, 100%. And I think that you touched on a lot of good stuff there. And I just to kind of sum that up, that it seems to me, and from my experience and from what you just talked about, that the in-game promotions or that that promoting an event is really proactive. You really have an opportunity to be really proactive.
Mm-hmm.
You have the opportunity to be proactive in game promotions, but a lot of that is reactive. A lot of that, okay, do we have a good crowd size? Are we going to have to use multiple kids for the same promotion? Is it a Thanksgiving game or the day after Thanksgiving, and so we know we're not going to have a lot of students, so do we even bother running some of this stuff?
Right.
And that's a lot of good stuff that I think is lost in some of the literature, because we're, obviously the academic portion talks about, okay, this is what you're doing, this is what promotions is, promoting a live event, but there's not in the nuts and bolts. So I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So let's ask this question. So why do promotions matter? Why even bother? What is it? Is it a vital part of the marketing plan, or what? Why does it matter? Especially, you're at an FCS school, you're going to move to an SMU school, or SMU, which is an FBS school that obviously has name brand. Do you even have to promote it? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple ways I could take this. For one, I think promotions matter because, as I touched on briefly earlier, with the accessibility of college athletics, whether it be football, primarily football, men's basketball, but others as well, through television, online streaming, social media, things like that, there are fewer and fewer incentives, if you will, to come to a game live by some respects. Some people decide that, hey, maybe fighting the hour of traffic with, $40 tickets and $6 popcorn isn't the best use of my time. And that's where, for me, when I come back to it's kind of my personal brand and just our industry, is like providing value apart from what's happening on the field. Sure. And that's where those, things like ticket specials and group outings, things like that,